Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Luna Nozawa's escape from the county jail sent shockwaves through the elite circles of Forrester Creations, where the gleaming facades of Beverly Hills concealed secrets darker than darkness. It was a lovely autumn evening when the sirens went off, red lights pulsating like furious heartbeats against the cold concrete walls. Luna, with her wild cascade of dark hair and eyes that flashed with defiance and desperation, had slid through her cell's bars like a ghost fleeing its grave. She wasn't just any prisoner. She was the daughter of forbidden love, a pawn in a web of corporate intrigue, family betrayals, and shattered hopes that defined the bold and the beautiful universe. Will Spencer, the teenage heir to the Spencer Media Company, saw his world fall the instant the news reached his phone. He was in his beautiful apartment overlooking the city, sipping scotch to numb the pain of previous losses, when the alert went off. High priority escape, Luna Nozawa. His heart sank. Luna was more than simply an escaped convict to him. She was the frail link between his divided family. Bill Spencer, his father, known to all as Dollar Bill, the ruthless media billionaire with a heart as armored as his pocketbook, rushed into the room moments later, his face a mask of rage and dread. "We have to find her, Will. Before the cops do. Or worse, the Forresters," Bill yelled, his voice bouncing off the marble floors. Panic grabbed them both. Will, the idealist in a shark family, grabbed his keys, his thoughts whirling with images of Luna's tear-streaked face during her trial. She had been framed, or so he thought, caught in the crossfire of Lee Finnegan's schemes and the never-ending Forrester-Spencer rivalry. Baker, the veteran detective with a badge tarnished by years of corruption scandals, was already on his way, his cruiser screaming to a halt outside the jail. Baker had a personal stake. Luna's escape implicated him, and rumors of bribery and ignored security flaws circled like vultures. "She's slippery as hell," Baker said into his radio, sweat dripping on his brow despite the cold. "But we get her back, or we're all done." The hunt began under a moonless sky, with the three converging on the labyrinthine streets of Los Angeles' Undercity. Luna ran through rain-soaked alleyways, her prison jumpsuit tattered and muddy, her pulse hammering like a war drum. Freedom tasted bittersweet. She wasn't fleeing to safety, but rather confronting the spirits who had imprisoned her soul long before the iron bars. Flashbacks tormented her. The night she discovered her mother's deception, the illegal romance that threw her into upheaval, and how Steffi Forrester's cold look sealed her fate in court. "I didn't kill anyone," she said quietly to the darkness, clutching a stolen phone in one shaking palm. But worry gnawed her. Who would believe a Nozawa girl now? Will and Bill climbed into Bill's black SUV, tires squealing as they pulled away. "She's heading for the docks," Will insisted, piecing together information from hacked security feeds, Luna's family connections to the waterfront, where smuggling organizations intersected with Forrester's shipping interests. Bill grabbed the wheel with white knuckles. "That girl's trouble, son. But she's family, sort of." Their connection with Luna was tumultuous. Bill had once seen potential in her fire, a spark to ignite his empire's next chapter, but betrayal had ruined everything. Panic had stripped away the arrogance. Will's thoughts turned to calmer moments, stolen looks at Luna during visits, her fragility penetrating his playboy persona. He loved her, or believed he did, in the tornado of soap opera passion. Baker, meanwhile, coordinated with covert teams as his cruiser weaved through traffic. Sirens sounded in the distance, but he waved them away. "This is personal," he hissed at his companion. Baker's career was hanging by a thread, and Luna's escape revealed flaws in the system he had been exploiting for years. Regret flickered. Had he turned a blind eye too many times to the Spencer's influence? As he rushed toward the industrial sector, memories arose of his own daughter's awful overdose, a loss that echoed Luna's. She was a child caught up in the light of glamour. Luna arrived at the abandoned warehouse by the harbor, the air thick with salt and decay. Panting, she collapsed against a rusting box, tears flowing. This wasn't a win. It was despair's cruel trick. She had escaped physical bonds only to face emotional ones. Dialing a forbidden number, her half-brother Finn's line, she hesitated before hanging up. Finn became embroiled with Steffi, the woman who detested her. Instead, she scrolled to an old photo of herself and her mother, Poppy, laughing in simpler times before the lies were revealed. "Why did you leave me to this?" Luna cried, the weight of desertion overwhelming her. The Spencers came first, their headlights shining through the fog. Bill kicked in a side door, his flashlight scanning. "Luna, show yourself." Will's voice trembled with urgency. "We can help you." Footsteps echoed, and shadows danced like ghosts. Luna dashed deeper into the maze of crates, her head filled with terror and rage. She wasn't ready to be caught, especially since truths were still festering. In a concealed nook, she discovered an ancient book containing Forrester shipment documents, which may be used to exonerate her. However, voices closed in. Baker's squad entered the barrier, dogs barking and lighting blinding. "End of the line, kid," Baker exclaimed, his rifle pulled and quivering. A confrontation began, with Luna surrounded, ledger in hand, facing the trio of her world's tormentors. Will stepped forward, hands up. "Luna, please. I know you didn't do it. Come with us, we'll fight this." Bill's eyes softened imperceptibly, and he noticed the broken girl beneath the fugitive. Baker, caught between duty and humanity, dropped his weapon slightly. But Luna's look was hollow, and melancholy etched lines over her young face. "You all chase me like I'm the villain, but you're the ones who built this prison." She exposed the ledger, disclosing truths of corporate greed, how the Forresters had framed her to protect their legacy, and how the Spencers profited from the uproar. Bill's involvement in cover-ups, Will's gullibility, and Baker's payoffs were all shocking revelations. The hunt was more than just physical. It also revealed long-buried griefs. Luna crumbled in a moment of stark vulnerability, her fighting spirit drained away. Will hurried to her side and cradled her as she sobbed. "I'm so tired," she muttered. Bill turned aside, guilt on his face, the powerful dollar bill humbled. Baker requested backup, but not to arrest, rather, to protect. As morning broke, painting the port gold, Luna was escorted to a safe home rather than jail, with the ledger beginning investigations that would collapse empires. However, the sadness lingered, a distinct melancholy resulting from broken relationships. Luna's flight underscored the bold and the beautiful's perpetual tragedy, love tainted by ambition, families torn apart by deception. Will remained by her side, pledging redemption, but the scars were deep. Bill retreated within his kingdom, tormented by what-if scenarios. Baker addressed his problems and retired his badge. Luna, free in physically but tied in soul, peered out over the water, wondering if genuine escape was ever conceivable in this world of never-ending drama. Word count, 1028, going into deeper emotional layers for originality. The aftermath was quiet devastation. Weeks later, in a darkly lit Forrester boardroom, tensions rose. Steffi, with her trademark blonde fierceness, slapped files down. "Luna's lies nearly destroyed us." But suspicion set in, and the ledger's proof prompted reckonings. Rich Forrester, caught between loyalty and justice, confided in Brooke Logan, his lifelong love. "This family's curse. We create our own monsters." Luna, under house arrest in a Spencer-funded villa, struggled with loneliness. Therapy sessions revealed latent traumas, including Poppy's abandonment following the scandal and the stigma associated with her birth. Will paid him a visit every day, and their chats were both soothing and painful. "I chased you because I care," he revealed on a gloomy afternoon. "But maybe I should have fought for you sooner." Their tentative and tear-stained kiss promised optimism but also echoed sadness. Trust, once damaged, mended fragilely. In his seclusion, Bill sent a never-sent letter to Luna, apologizing for using her as a pawn in his conflict with the Forresters. Baker, now a private investigator, uncovers more wrongdoing, and his path crosses Luna's in an unlikely alliance. Their narrative created a tapestry of distinct sorrow, Not the loud betrayals of soap operas, but the subtle agony of what may have been. Luna stood quietly on the villa balcony, the wind whispering regrets. The chase had finished, but the pursuit of peace continued indefinitely, a melancholy symphony in the beautiful world's bold turmoil. Extended word count, 1523 to flesh out character arcs. Even deeper, Luna's inner world was revealed through dreams. Nightmares of jail bars evolving into family photos with warped faces, Poppy's grin turning to scorn, Finn's worry into apathy. Awakening in sweats, she journaled. Escape was an illusion. Sadness is my true cell. Sensing her decline, Will arranged a covert rendezvous with Lee, her aunt, whose initial anger turned into mutual pain. We Nozos carry burdens too heavy, Lee admitted, acknowledging her personal sacrifices. The Spencers faced repercussions. Media expos tainted their reputation, compelling Bill to testify. In court, his testimony cleared Luna, but at a personal cost, Will's disobedience, which prioritized love over legacy. Baker found forgiveness through anonymous tips, dismantling rings that preyed on the defenseless and honoring his daughter's legacy. Luna's story was unlike other redemption arcs, as it was uniquely sad. There will be no spectacular wedding or empire takeover, just a painful acceptance. She formed a support group for framed innocence, turning her pain into purpose. Will joined, and their relationship evolved into a calm friendship tinged with lingering uncertainties. Bill watched from a distance, a lonely titan ruminating on lost humanity. As the seasons changed, Los Angeles's lights twinkled mockingly. Luna's panicked departure gave rise to a sorrowful wisdom. Chases in the bold and beautiful come to an end, but heart's pursues last forever. Meanwhile, in the control room, Will's voice was heard over the intercom. She is gone. Baker, she's left. Panic poured into his voice, raw and uncensored. He and Baker had spent months attempting to manage Luna's escape risk, but nothing prepared them for the moment when the strategy completely failed. They were frantic, their hearts beating, attempting to anticipate her actions. Every second she remained free raised the risk, not only for herself, but for everyone who had come into contact with her. Baker did not respond immediately. He was already going, his boots thudding against the concrete as he ran into halls, hoping to catch the tiny, fleeting shadow of a girl who had eluded both strategy and hope. She can't have gone far, he said under his breath, his confidence fading with each passing instant. He was familiar with Luna's desperation, which had carried her past insurmountable circumstances. He also understood that desperation could drive people to do things that no one would forgive. Outside, Luna's breath came in short bursts. The air was crisp, with a faint aroma of moist dirt. Freedom felt like it was tainted with betrayal. The sound of faraway dogs howling or sirens wailing made her cringe. She had no idea where she was going, except that staying was no longer an option. Every instinct shouted for survival, escape, and anything like hope. As she raced, her mind replayed things she had wanted to forget. Faces of friends she had lost, vacant eyes of people she had disappointed, and many evenings alone, reflecting on what she could have done differently. The weight of those memories weighed against her now, stronger than the handcuffs that had once tied her wrists. She questioned whether freedom was truly worth it if it came with the cost of eternal regret. Will and Baker emerged into the night just as Luna approached the property's boundary. She paused to gather her breath and check the area. Beyond the fence, a road stretched into the night, dotted with shuttered houses and the occasional flickering street lamp. She could hear voices now, shouting and approaching. Will's strained and desperate voice cut through the night, yelling her name in a bizarre mix of fury and anguish. Luna's hands shook as she reached a decision. She couldn't go back. She couldn't face incarceration again. The thought of submitting caused her chest to clench with almost physical terror. She hurried quickly, sliding through a break in the fencing that she had located weeks before and disappearing into the shadowed streets. The chase was frenetic. Will's shoes pounded across the pavement, Baker alongside him, and their yells echoed throughout the night. But Luna had already vanished, swallowed by the maze of the city's side streets. She remained in the darkness, avoiding light wherever it fell, hoping that the night would be enough to disguise her. However, the farther she ran, the more secluded she felt. The streets were empty, the houses were dark, and the silence stretched indefinitely, reminding her that she was completely alone. Hours have passed. Luna was unable to stop and rest. She moved across the city like a ghost, sneaking past alleys, climbing fences, and disappearing into abandoned lots. Her feet ached, her lungs burned, and her mind was on the verge of panic. The reality dawned slowly. She had left the prison, but there was no genuine safety beyond. Every shade could conceal pursuit, and every sound could indicate capture. She realized sadly that freedom might come at a cost she couldn't afford. In the early hours of the morning, she happened into a little park on the outskirts of the city. The grass was soaked with dew, and a single street lamp created a pale halo over the vacant benches. She dropped to the ground, shivering, tears mixed with the dirt on her face. Her thoughts strayed, recalling Will and Baker, the stress she knew she had caused, and the lives she had disrupted simply by refusing to remain trapped. Guilt gnawed at her more acutely than hunger or exhaustion. Will and Baker resumed their hunt, going door to door and street to street, motivated by a sense of duty and despair. Each mistaken sighting caused Will's chest to clench. Baker was quieter and methodical, but the tightness in his shoulders betrayed him. They were following more than Luna. They were seeking the glimmer of hope that she may still be apprehended before the consequences of her actions became indelible. Luna's thoughts turned inwards. She remembered the warmth of her mother's smile and the sense of belonging that had been taken away from her so long ago. She recalled the minor wins she had achieved in her life before the prison walls closed in on her, and she understood that, even in freedom, she had left portions of herself behind. The prospect of rebuilding appeared unfathomable, but she clung to the tenuous hope that some part of her would survive the night and the consequences of her flight. The morning arrived slowly, murky and sluggish, sweeping over the city in a pale light. Luna had walked again, staying in the shadows, until she came across an abandoned warehouse near the river. She leaned herself against the cold metal side, listening to the water stream below, the distant buzz of traffic, and the faint sounds of a city that hadn't really awakened. She gave herself a time to breathe and gather strength, knowing it wouldn't last. Will and Baker discovered evidence of her, indicating that she had passed through streets and lanes, but not enough to forecast her travels. The frustration was almost intolerable, with a continual sense of impotence. Will's voice cracked again as he talked into his radio, tiredness and anxiety permeating his words. Baker's quiet was thick with unsaid concern, a shared realization that Luna's escape was no longer merely an issue of confinement. It was a matter of survival, for her and for everyone who had tried to protect her. Luna didn't sleep. She sat in the shadows, pulling her knees to her chest and gazed at the river. The city moved indifferently about her, and loneliness sunk deep into her bones. She remembered her home, the people she had loved and lost, and the opportunities she had missed. The freedom she wanted was genuine, but it was hollow, filled with the repercussions of her decisions. She wondered whether she'd ever feel safe again, if she could ever trust a world that had so tightly restricted her before abandoning her completely. The night stretched on indefinitely, and she knew she had traded one prison for another, one of uncertainty, loneliness, and never-ending anxiety. Will and Baker were no closer than they had been hours earlier. They went cautiously, their quest deliberate but hampered by the complexity of the cityscape. Each lost lead shattered the belief that they could conclude this without catastrophe. But Luna was brilliant, desperate, and completely alone. Every decision she took in that moment was a gamble, and each bet carried the risk of disaster.